With respect, we acknowledge the Nevada County campus of Sierra College as the traditional and unceded homelands of the Nisenan peoples. For countless generations, the Nisenan have carried out their responsibilities as stewards of this place originally known as DASPA. Sierra College commits to an ongoing relationship with the Nevada City Rancheria, Nisenan tribe, and their future generations, who are an integral part of the Sierra College community.
A little bit about Sierra College Foundation. I'm Judy East, and I'm the chair of the Nevada County Council of the Sierra College Foundation. We are an arm of the foundation whose purpose is to support students and programs of Sierra College. Our council puts about $20,000 into the college community every year. We do this by our new fundraiser, Family Fun Fest in July, and our upcoming Day for Women in March. Some of the things that we do, we have a 7th grade day. We bring 7th graders from the 3 lower socioeconomic schools up to the campus to spend half a day here going through college classes and knowing that they can come to college right in their back door. The other thing that we have sponsored is the fact that if you have a Sierra College ID, you can use local transportation anywhere, anytime for free. You didn't know that one?
No, the spot just went on here.
Yeah, oh, okay. So we sponsor the art show, and there is an art show in the lobby if you want to do that on the way out. We have an emergency fund of $500 in case a student can't come to school because something has happened. We give out lots of scholarships, and we were able to secure 5 Osher scholarships of $1,000 each year in perpetuity. Another thing that we're working on, and I hope there's a slide here, Dorian, on the Alumni Association. We're going to look at having alumni events here, but the first Alumni Association event is September 12th on the Rockland campus. If you've ever attended Sierra College, you can be part of that organization, and the sign-ups are on that table there. Just another thing to tell you, the Business of Art, which is co-sponsored by Sierra College and Nevada County Arts Council, will be September 27th here. So I hope you can make that one. How many of you have never been on the campus? Oh, not many, that's great. If you have a chance when you leave, please go up to the campus and see how absolutely beautiful it is and what your tax dollars have supported. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy, very much, and welcome, everyone. I'm Terry McAteer. I'm the retired county superintendent here in Nevada County. And our topic today, as you are all here for, is to discuss what is going on relative to the implementation of Prop 36, and then we'll discuss ICE, the federal agency that you see on the front page of every paper every day. And with us, we have our district attorney, Jesse Wilson, and I'm delighted to have you. Thank you, Jesse, very much. And Sergeant Matt Harrison from the Sheriff's Office. And the Sergeant's Day is acting as the sheriff, because he is the sheriff right now, because the sheriff and her team, management team, happen to be at a workshop together. So the person in charge of our welfare in the county right now is Sergeant Harrison. So nice to have you all here. Thank you. So how this is going to work, I'm going to chat with these two gentlemen till about 11:15, and then we'll open it up to questions, okay? And we hope the questions stay pertinent to the topic and not, I have a barking dog in my neighborhood, and gee, how do I get the sheriff's agency out there, okay? So anyway, I'm sure you'll do great with that, and let's get into this. So let's begin with Proposition 36 and the district attorney. So, Mr. Wilson, can you help us understand, you were an advocate of Proposition 36, And so we'd like a little brief overview again of what we voted on, which passed overwhelmingly. So if you don't mind, there's 2 or 3 major provisions in that bill.
Sure. Well, thank you, Terry. Thank you for everyone that put this on. As it relates to Prop 36, I was an early advocate. It seemed like a pretty straightforward change in the law or adjustment in the law that was squarely tied to common sense. I don't think I was alone on that, even though I was an early supporter. I think you see that every single county in the state of California passed it overwhelmingly, so I think the majority of Californians obviously were on board with it too. But what it does is it goes back to laws on the books as it relates to drugs and theft, particularly post Prop 47, which was implemented in 2014. So not to get too far in the weeds, but in 2014, they basically rolled back those laws as it relates to prior convictions for theft or drug possession. So if you had prior convictions prior to 2014, you could face increased consequences each subsequent conviction, and that rolled back in 2014. So this latest go around the November 5th elections of last year, and then it went into effect December 18th, was basically to say if you have prior convictions for petty hard drug possession, you could be treated with a felony, or if you had prior petty theft convictions and you keep committing petty thefts and being convicted, you could have harsher punishments.
Right.
So that's effectively what it did. So no longer from 2014 to 2024, between that 10-year time period, if you had 50 prior theft convictions and then you had a 51st one, you were treated under the law with the same type of criminal sanctions as the person that committed the theft for the first time. Mm-hmm. And so what we did was, and what Californians did in passing Prop 36 is said, doesn't really make sense, it's not playing well out on our streets, we don't like the trajectory here, so let's go back to a little more accountability and common sense in our law. So that's what we did, but I think in particular, and the reason why it made sense to me out of the gate was on the harsher punishment side of the simple possession of drugs, what it did was it put in a mandated treatment felony as part of that. So if you are gonna get a harsher punishment in the form of a felony from a DA's office like mine, you on the table by law, you have the option to go to mandated treatment to address whatever underlying issues you have with substance abuse, and then get that felony dismissed outright if you successfully complete that treatment.
So let's talk about that mandated treatment, okay? Because I gather from while it passes, there's no dollars that have been following it. So how's it work in Nevada County as an example? So I've committed a couple drug offenses, and I'm now at my 3rd drug offense, and I'm dealing with the district attorney's office. What's that going to look like these days?
Well, we still have the discretion to treat it as a misdemeanor or felony, but if we have someone that comes before us that has a hefty criminal record, certainly hefty criminal record with drug conviction after drug conviction, we're going to charge them with a felony. And what that felony does, they get brought into court and they say, which way do you want to go? Do you want to go down the traditional path of incarceration, or do you want to try to address this drug issue that you clearly have based on your criminal record, right? And they say, hey, let me get this drug treatment program that you have here. And then what the court does is they turn to other county services, so they'll say, hey, behavioral health, have someone evaluate this person to see what their individual specific needs are surrounding their addiction, right? What type of addiction, is there a mental health component to that? And they get this evaluation, and then based on the evaluation, they work with other justice partners, including obviously the defense attorneys, public defenders, the probation department, and they get a treatment plan together for the next 18 months for that individual, and they're supervised in part by probation. There's their behavioral health has a component to it, and then whatever other services this individual needs to be successful over 18 months, and if they choose to be successful and comply with the program, they'll have that felony dismissed at the end of 18 months.
So the idea is to stop this recidivism which is taking place with a lot of drug offenders in Wayne Brown facility. I gather most of the people in there have some form of drug offense or drug addiction, and therefore, is that the goal, to stop this revolving door?
Absolutely, and you know, this isn't some theoretical type of program that we're putting in place. We have treatment programs in place. We have treatment courts in place already, whether it's a DUI court, adult drug court. So we've seen the success of these courts. We've seen the testimonials for individuals that have rap sheets that are very long, graduate from adult drug court and say, this saved my life. I've been a criminal my whole life. I'm from a family of criminals, and I've turned it all around. You
And
saved
so-
me, you've saved my kids, and that's a result of treatment courts that address the treatment side of things and the underlying issues and try to turn things around as opposed to the traditional path.
So this has only been in effect since January 1st, so we're 9 months into this. Are you actually having cases that are going currently using the Prop 36 drug mandated program in place?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was, the results were certified somewhere around December 18th of last year, so it was in effect and on the books in mid-December of last year. And yeah, we've had dozens of cases that are now felonies, mainly in the area. I mentioned the theft component as well, and if you have prior thefts, you can face felony consequences for that. But the majority of cases that we see are related to drug abuse. So we have dozens and dozens of new felony drug charges that would have been misdemeanors under the old law that are now felonies for drug possession, and the majority of them are seeking some sort of treatment. So, back to the funding component, that's where we're scrambling, right? So this law passes, and now you're already putting new burdens on these other programs, these other departments like behavioral health and the courts and probation and that sort of thing. Public defenders' offices are scrambling to absorb the additional capacity for what the voters wanted. The voters wanted some path to treatment to turn this around, and so I think our county stands out as doing a tremendous job in basically, without the funding, finding a way to provide these treatment programs for these individuals.
And so you're saying that even as the courts are going along with your recommendation, and so is the inmate or the petitioner, I guess, you're finding that Nevada County is able somehow to be able to make this go for these drug offenders.
Yes.
And what percentage of the people that you're seeing are taking that option compared with the option of just going back to the penitentiary?
Virtually all of them.
All of
them. And the lion's share of them, I would say,
Uh-huh.
take the treatment route. But it's incumbent upon us, it's incumbent on our justice partners, and really it's incumbent on, I think, the state as well. But that goes back to the funding component, to put the structure in place, to put the programs in place, to put the treatment in place, to give them a chance to succeed, right? They're gonna fail if we don't have the proper treatment available for them. So that's what we're really scrambling to do. And by we, I mean these other service providers out there.
And what is the main drug of choice that these people are coming to you with this potential felony facing them? Is it fentanyl, or what on average is it?
Well, Sergeant Harrison here as well, but I think what we're seeing is methamphetamine is still rocking and rolling out there. Fentanyl is obviously a huge problem. Opioids continue to be a problem, but I think what we're seeing is a lot of methamphetamine and then fentanyl mixed in with pretty much everything. So fentanyl and methamphetamine would be my final answer.
Okay, and so let's switch to the other component of the Prop 36, which is, I sort of say, the grab and go that we saw on TV, that people groups come into Walgreens or CVS or whatever and just sort of go down the aisle, or any other retail store, and sort of take the merchandise and run. So walk us through, because I think that's one of the things that Californians certainly responded to, was this, oh my goodness, look what's happening to our local retailer. So talk to us about that portion of the bill.
Well, from our perspective at the DA's office in Nevada County, we haven't seen the impact of these organized retail thefts here in Nevada County that we've seen, on social media and some of the bigger jurisdictions. So that hasn't been the component of Prop 36 that we've seen on a day-to-day basis and dealt with on a day-to-day basis, and nor have we really seen it anecdotally or otherwise in the public and affecting our retailers. Certainly retail theft is a huge problem with our retailers, but not on the organized type of grab and go that you're mentioning.
Right.
But certainly we were supportive of individuals that had a history of theft, whether it be petty or otherwise, having increased consequences, to try to send that deterrence out there and send a message to our retailers that, look, something could be done if you have somebody that's a perennial type of thief that's stealing from you. Something can be done. So I think the perception and all this, you know, overall speaks, I think, to the credibility of our institutions and what we're charged with doing for the public. I think can't do anything but help.
Well, it seems like there's less of it. I don't know, maybe there's less reporting of it, but tell again what the consequences we help this, we help create this, we as Californians helped create this, and now what does Prop 36 do to that theft, to that criminal of theft?
So, you know, before Prop 36, you know, that 10-year period, if you walk into Target, you just take a rice cooker and you walk out, let's say that they do bother to call it in, because again, that's a whole different thing, but if they call it in, it's a misdemeanor, right? No matter how many priors you've had, it's a misdemeanor. This person could have done this their whole life, this could be their living, this could be how they support themselves, and they can make a good living out of it, or they support the drug habit or whatever else. So, you know, someone from the Sheriff's Department, someone from Grass Valley Police Department would arrive, they didn't see it in person, it's a misdemeanor, so at most it's a cite and release, and this person goes out and they have a minimum amount of consequences that the court can hand down, even if we do take it, charge it, and bring it to the court, okay? So you're talking about a minimal amount of consequences, very low level of deterrence. It's not really gonna interrupt their life, okay? That being the person that stole that rice cooker, did I say rice cooker?
You said Rice Krispies.
Well, I use my rice cooker a lot, so that's why I said that. But so there's very little. We're not going to interrupt their life very much. Hey, they may have to go to court. They may have a warrant. What's going to happen there? Whatever. They may have to go to jail for a little bit. They may not. They probably won't. And that's even if the resources want to be stood up because it wasn't seen in person, so they can't make an arrest. It's cite and release at best. And so this whole process starts with that. They do it again, same thing, same low-level amount of consequences, even if we do file, and we do file here in Nevada County, we'll file, like if that comes to us, we'll still file on petty theft. But the retailers, they're so overwhelmed. Is that really worth them sending an employee to go to court, testify, all of that over this $50 rice cooker, because they're the ones that have to drive this case, right? So now, if this person has prior convictions, well, whether or not law enforcement sees it or not, they can arrest them on the spot, take them to jail, and now they're facing felony charges. Now they have a decision to make, right? We are going to interrupt your life unless you start doing something else, because you will now spend longer time in jail and have felony convictions and the whole 9 yards, so there's more teeth to the law. Again, for somebody that is choosing this as a lifestyle or to continue doing this for whatever reason and victimize the public. So that person is now treated differently. That person is before the court. That person in our charging document is facing a felony, and we're saying, look, we are going to interrupt your life. You could go away for months and months, you know, because of your theft problem. You keep victimizing the community. We can't be having that, right? So you are treated differently than the person that is convicted for the first or second time. And that's, again, that's the type of common sense, but that's also my view. Californians.
And so is there some factor that if you're in a group, I mean, we've seen these now in groups, this isn't the guy that just goes in and, you know, puts a garment under his coat or so and walks out. This has been this group element that's taken place.
Well, again, Terry, yes, there are components of the law that increase the penalties for people that engage in that type of organized retail theft, going into groups and going in, you know, stealing a bunch of Apple phones or something like that. So yeah, there are increased punishments. There's, you know, if they are responsible for vandalism, property damage, that sort of thing, you can really ratchet it up. That's just not what we typically see in Nevada County. So that's not what we're seeing come across our desk on a regular basis.
And so the hope is that we're going to see, you're going to be able to report back to us that, gee, we're seeing less theft and we're seeing less drug convictions because these people are going to treatment. By the way, that treatment was how many months? You said that. How many months are they into this? Or
it would
does it depend?
Sure, well, everything depends, but yes, traditionally it would be 18 months. And, you know, on that point too, about what we want to see from this, you know, this is very early,
yes.
Right? Like I said, we've had dozens and dozens. I just charged one this morning personally, charged an 11,395, which is now, this is your, at least your third drug conviction, your drug charge, and we're filing it as a felony, right? So I just charged one this morning. So I think we have now about 46, 47 of those in our jurisdiction that are felonies now, subsequent to the passage in 2018. So San Diego, much bigger jurisdiction, right? We have 100,000 here. I don't know how many millions they have there, but at our annual conference, the DA there, Summer Stevens was saying, we have thousands and thousands of 11,395s and Prop 36 cases that we've charged since the implementation of this. These are new felonies. this would not be felonies but for this, right? So we have more felonies because of this. But actually what they're seeing, and again, anecdotally, so let's pump the brakes on that, but they have overall less felonies that they're charging overall. So they've seen a decrease in overall felonies, even though in this one subset, they've seen an increase in felonies in this particular category of crime. But their overall felony charging is noticeably down since the implementation of this. So I don't know if that trend will continue. I don't know if that's just a coincidence or not, but that is what we are going after, right? That is, we're going after decreasing the amount of felony conduct out there by holding people accountable and hopefully turning people around and having them choose a different course to make a living and be productive members of society.
But even though this gets implemented in December and there was no funding attached to it, and we all know the state has a budget problem, there still was nothing put into the budget for next year relative to this treatment program.
Yeah, there was originally nothing, and then there was a nominal amount that was overall disrespectful to what we need. But yeah, so there's nothing. But you know what I mean. This is a need, right? This is a need, and this is something people want people to go to actually substantive type of treatment and address these issues and lower the crime rate, lower the homelessness. I mean, these are very complex issues,
Sure.
and I'm not saying that this is a one-stop fix by any means. But people want this, so we continue to organize in DA offices and along with law enforcement to continue to push those that have these funding powers to fund it. And so we're still optimistic. We're not giving up by any means. So we're hoping that funding will come and this will continue to be a success.
Great. And before we move on to the ICE situation, I am forced to ask about the status of the Fire Safe Council investigation
Sure.
that's been in your lap for a while. So any updates that you'd like to share with us?
Not really, but I can say, every once in a while I'll put out social media posts, and I think those social media posts are accurate, right? We have a relatively small office, we're a relatively small county, we have a limited number of resources, we have a tremendous amount of referrals from law enforcement that we do. We have a lot going on, like every other DA office, but this is a very heavy volume case in the amount of documents. This would be what's referred to, I think, commonly as a white collar case, right? So we're talking about a tremendous volume of stuff that we have to go through. We are very, very cognizant of the presumption of innocence, right? So we need to do our due diligence before we make any sort of decisions on a scale like that. Before we can do our due diligence, which is going through all of these things, this takes a tremendous amount of time and a very limited amount of staff to go through this. So when you face something like this, if you get a report from law enforcement that is 25 pages long, you can go over that, you can thoroughly go over that, figure out what other investigation you need to pursue if that is the case, or if you have everything right there. When you're talking about not 25 pages, but tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of pages, now we have a different time on our hands, right? So instead of turning that around in a week, we got to turn that around in however long it keeps taking.
So the answer is it's still ongoing.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much, our district attorney. So yes, So now we'll move to law enforcement, and we're really honored to have you, Sergeant. Thank you very much. So, and I know this is an ultra hot topic. I mean, 36, half of the people came in here saying, I can't remember what 36 is about, but the word ICE today sends chills through your spine, some people. That's a pun. And so let's begin with this idea of your relationship with federal agencies. I think that's really important to know. So what is your relationship with the federal marshals and ICE and other federal law enforcement agencies and the Sheriff's Department?
With the Sheriff's Department, we don't have relations. The jail has a contract with the federal marshals to house some of their criminal in custody. Other than that, we don't have an ongoing relationship with these federal agents. If they come into the community, they don't have to notify us that they're in the community. They oftentimes don't. They don't answer to us, and we can't mandate their actions within our county. They're federal agencies. They can operate within their entire jurisdiction, which is the entire U.S.
So ICE, an ICE office out of Sacramento, and I guess, is it in do they operate out of Sacramento?
I honestly don't know.
Oh, wow.
I know the marshals are there, because
Uh-huh.
the federal courthouse is there. I don't know if immigration operates out of Sacramento.
Okay, so they're going to come up and do a raid like we've seen around the rest of the country. And you're telling me that ICE doesn't send you a message saying, hey, listen, we'll be over in this area and you can provide some support for us, or, that's the question.
We will occasionally get notified from outside agencies, and this is usually neighboring county agencies if they're going to be operating within our jurisdiction, within our county, just to let us know it's for officer safety purposes. Like, if they get on the radio and say that they need assistance for something, we already know where they're at. Like I said, usually it's a neighboring county. Federal agents, they're under no mandate to let us know that they're here. They generally don't. We've had no notifications that ICE has been in or was planning to be in the county this year.
So I know we had a false red alert here recently. There was some action that took place that blew up all over the internet and
Yes.
social media. But that was not an ICE raid, is that
No,
correct?
it was a U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force. They were apprehending I believe it was a convicted murderer who had escaped from prison in 1990. It had nothing to do with immigration. They were just apprehending an escaped convicted murderer.
So you don't have any knowledge of ICE operating in this county at this point. And so how might you get involved if there was an ICE raid, we'll use that word, here in the county?
Well, if they contacted us for any information or any assistance, we're prohibited under the Truth, Trust, and Values Act from providing any assistance, from providing any information, from doing any immigration enforcement. So
let me get that straight. So if ICE phones you up and says, we need to know about Joe Smith, and you say to them, what?
we can't provide any information.
So they know that.
They know that.
And you can't phone them and say, gee, I want to know about X, Y, and Z, and are you planning on going after X, Y, or Z? Or that doesn't occur, this cross?
Not at all.
Not at all?
Yeah, the law, the California state law that was passed, I believe it went into effect in January 1st of 2018, from SB 54. It prohibits us from getting involved in any investigations or any law enforcement actions dealing with immigration.
I didn't let you finish. How would you be involved? How might the sheriff's office and ICE interact at all on any occasion here in the county?
We wouldn't interact directly with them at all. If hypothetically something happened and there was, a riot or something like that, we would come out just to maintain peace and protect people and property, but we would not be actively assisting or investigating or doing anything else as far as immigration.
And are you treated the same as the Grass Valley Police Department and Nevada City Police Department? Is there any differentiation between the sheriff's office and the other two police departments?
No, I imagine that they would answer the same way, but under the California state law, we're prohibited, so we have no involvement with immigration.
And so let's say an ICE raid does occur in Nevada County, and they round up 30 individuals, illegal immigrants, and are they able to come over to the Wayne Brown facility and say, would you mind housing these people for a week or so?
No, they don't house any of their detainees or their arrestees at our jail. We can only house people based on criminal complaints or warrants, which they're signed by a judge for a criminal complaint, not for a civil, not for immigration. We don't house on that at all.
And so if ICE came up to go to a hospital, a church, a school, the courthouse, they would not be informing you at all in terms of these sensitive areas?
There's no mandate that they inform us that they're going to be in the county operating, and this year we've had no contacts from them.
And do you see the possibility at all of something like that taking place and the sheriff's department stepping in and saying, hold on, you're not going to go through Nevada Union High School, as an example?
As a law enforcement agency, a local law enforcement agency, we don't mandate what they can and can't do, and if we were to step in and prevent them, that would be a criminal violation for obstruction.
So I'm trying to sort through this, which is fascinating because I think a lot of the public sees on the TV the LA Sheriff's Department out there along with ICE, and you're saying most likely that the reason that occurred was because the LA County Sheriff has said, I want to keep peace and order in my city while an ICE raid is occurring. Is that a fair assessment?
That's what I would believe. I don't know as to the exact details, but just like any other law enforcement agency in California, they have to adhere to California law. They cannot assist ICE with their immigration enforcement. They cannot participate, so I imagine they would be out there just maintaining peace, preventing violence or property damage, stuff like that.
And how about these ICE agents having warrants or so? You can only arrest people with a warrant outside of seeing the crime or such taking place.
Yeah, if somebody were to be arrested locally on a federal warrant, that's a warrant for a criminal complaint, has nothing to do with immigration status. We cannot question, we cannot detain on immigration status. We can only arrest on a warrant.
And people can't be housed in the Wayne Brown facility because they haven't, it's not a criminal act, it's not a crime, explain that for me.
Well, if there's a criminal warrant for a criminal complaint,
Yes.
they can be housed there, but
Right.
if they cannot be detained for immigration status, we cannot, if somebody is arrested for a local charge, per the California state law, we cannot hold them past their release date based on an immigration detainer. We cannot notify immigration enforcement as to when the release date is. We cannot allow questioning of that person unless they agree to it and they have, and that's in writing.
So they can't be put in the Wayne Brown facility even though they're an illegal immigrant and that's having committed a crime potentially. But I'm trying to understand that fine line, and maybe the district attorney can help us, but that fine line between, ICE has come in and arrested you because you're an illegal immigrant, and they then can't house you over at Wayne Brown.
That's correct. We can only house somebody on a federal warrant. So if a judge says that there's a criminal complaint, we can house on that. If ICE goes out and detains somebody based on presumed immigration status, we cannot house on that.
So, Mr.
That alone
Wilson,
is not criminal.
Mr. Wilson, these immigrants are being detained, but the ICE agents do not have to have a warrant. Is that your understanding of the situation?
Well, we're local law.
I understand
right?
that.
So
we're
I'm not a
talking
federal
about-
prosecutor,
right.
so what I deal with and where my subject matter expertise is in state law, state California Penal Code. So when you talk about what's a crime or not a crime on the federal side of things, we can't really speak to that. So it could be that it is a crime to be an illegal immigrant.
Right.
But we're just saying what our obligations are constitutionally, ethically, legally, and we keep a separation between those two. So.
Okay, thank you.
And what I would say, Terry,
Sure,
I think it's
please.
important to note too,
Yeah.
of what information we can provide, what information we're precluded from providing. We don't, as the DA's office, and a lot of our information that we do have access to comes from law enforcement agency. We don't have information on people's legal status, whether or not they're legal or illegal. So even if we wanted to provide an update on whether or not we don't even have those metrics even to report out on. So that's not an area that we really deal with. I'm
That's
sure
correct, and with SB 54, the Truth, Trust, and Values Act, law enforcement is prohibited from asking about immigration status, period.
So you pull over a person speeding, and you're going to talk about them with their California driver's license and insurance on the car or whatever else.
And
But it
cite
has-
or not say,
Right,
based
but it
on
has
the
nothing to do with
violation.
whether they're legal or illegal.
That's correct.
And so therefore, the federal agents are getting that information from another source of information that they have that you don't even have access to.
That's correct, and any law enforcement agency within California is prohibited from providing that information to them.
And so these ICE agents, which we're all sort of like questioning who are these people, and so they're duly sworn officers. they've gone through similar training which you've gone through as a peace officer?
I'm not sure of the
Uh-huh.
federal mandates, but I would imagine they have some sort of training.
Uh-huh. Because that's what, they're recruiting, and they just recruited, the guy who was Superman or whatever. So, I mean, I just don't know what type of training they go through in terms of being an agent and their ability to carry a weapon. You're just saying to me, I don't know either.
I don't know either.
Wow, that's fascinating. Fascinating between the relationship between federal agencies and state and local agencies. It makes you, you have this idea of federalism, the difference between the various agencies, but in law enforcement, I don't know, there's this thought out there that you're all in some type of coordinated activity, and you're telling me today and the audience that really the fact is, Terry, that they're federal and we're state, and you're
That's
essentially
correct.
state.
I'm not sure their standards. They don't answer to us. We have little to no involvement with any federal agencies, period.
Uh-huh. And so an
we're not
immigrant,
represented.
an illegal immigrant in this community can't, if they come to the sheriff's department and say, I need protection, or so I'm worried about my family, what's your relationship at that point?
We could enforce California law. We're not going to enforce federal law. We're not going to do anything regarding to the immigration status.
Okay. Anything else, Jesse, you want to chat about that would be interesting on this topic before I open it up for questions?
No, I just think that the example that the sergeant gave about the wanted suspect and the U.S. Marshals coming into the grocery store or whatever to get this person that was wanted for murder is kind of an applicable type of way that they're gonna act, right?
Yes.
They may alert local law enforcement to say, hey, here's a courtesy, we're gonna be in the area, just so you know who has guns coming into your area, and we're gonna do what we're gonna do, and that is get this person that has nothing to do with your jurisdiction, has nothing to do with your laws, but we're coming to get them.
Okay.
And to our knowledge, like I said, for the sheriff's office, we are not aware of ICE having been in the county this year, and we're not aware of any local residents having been deported.
Great. Well, it's great time to be able to open up for some questions. So let's begin with this lovely
I have
lady.
a question. My name is Marion Blair, and thank you so much for being here. With all due respect, Mr. McEntee, a lot of the people being detained and exported to like concentration camps are quote legal. They were born here. The laws change weekly with our current administration. But what I wanted to
Well, I'll repeat the question when we get the question,
what I
okay?
wanted to ask the honorable sheriff here is, so you keep stating that the laws, and that was very interesting, prohibit you from enforcing any kind of ICE activity or helping them with it. But would you, the Board of Supervisors wants to know this, would you do it? I mean, would your sheriff, the people under your jurisdiction, do that, even though
Would we
Do what? I'm sorry.
actually help ICE? You
So
say
they
the
want to
laws
know if there would
prohibit
be
it,
assistance
but-
from ICE. If ICE contacted you and said, we need your help.
The sheriff's office and the individual deputies within the sheriff's office adhere to California state law.
Okay, okay, that's what I needed to know. The Board of Supervisors is asking this of us because we're trying to get a resolution passed countywide to not assist ICE in.
So the answer is because of
There is a
state law.
Yeah.
That prohibits already.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Yes, sir.
Bob Brandstrom from Grass Valley. I'm gonna cut to the chase because what I see on the media these days is men jumping out of SUVs or vans, armed and masked, not identifying themselves, going and grabbing people and taking them away. By my definition, that's kidnapping. And if I saw that, I would call our local law enforcement and say, I just observed a kidnapping, and I'd report any information I had, including license plates. Is that a federal offense and therefore you wouldn't enforce it? Or is there state law against that and you would take action on that?
So let me repeat the question. In short, is ICE comes in, it looks like it's almost a kidnapping taking place. A bystander here in the community phones up the sheriff's department and says, I've witnessed a kidnapping. what happens at that point?
Well, we'd investigate to determine exactly what happened. If somebody is arrested or detained by ICE, ICE is doing so under their own mandates and under their own mission. They don't answer to the sheriff's office. We can't prevent them from their investigations or their law enforcement activity.
So you, go
Bob,
ahead.
you could, I mean, if it was an illegal, yeah, kidnapping is
Yes.
illegal federally, and it's definitely illegal locally and by state law. So if you see something you think's a kidnapping, I mean, law enforcement will investigate, right? They'll contact the alleged kidnapper, they'll do their due diligence, and if the person was not acting under the authority that is prescribed to them by law, yeah, they're subject to kidnapping charges. I mean, that's pretty straightforward.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, so, sorry to harp on this, but, so what you're saying is that, if you know a federal agent or maybe even another state agent, another sheriff's department comes to our county and you know they are violating a state law, you cannot intervene. So let's say there is an illegal detention of a citizen of this county, which we know is happening. They're breaking state and federal law, detaining these people. You will not intervene, and also you will intervene to protect them from angry citizens that try and intervene on behalf of the citizen being detained.
If somebody is arrested or detained, legally arrested or detained from,
No, I'm saying it's an illegal detention, if they're illegally detaining people.
So illegally detaining people, meaning that they come and they take a person that they thought was a illegal immigrant, but it's not an illegal immigrant.
Undocumented.
Yeah, there's no
Pardon?
such thing as,
Undocumented.
there's no such thing as
Okay,
illegal.
okay.
It's undocumented.
Okay, I'm gonna say it from now on, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So an undocumented person compared to a person who is a legal citizen here, as an example.
The sheriff's office isn't gonna make a distinction. We will investigate it if somebody is arrested or detained either for state law, violation of law or federal violation of law. They're being arrested for violation of law.
And your second part of your question
So I'm
was,
saying, there's a reason to suspect there is an unlawful detention or abduction or extradition, whatever you wanna call it, happening to a citizen or a member of this community, a person, a human being. And people of the community are attempting to intervene and protect that person from a crime. Would you protect the federal agents from the community, or would you protect the community from the federal agents?
It's a hypothetical. I mean, we have to take everything as we see it. We cannot obstruct a federal agent from their law enforcement action.
We don't know
Even if they are breaking the law.
We don't know they're in masks.
I don't,
Well, and the hypothetical itself, I think it requires more details, right? If you see a CHP officer pulling someone over, or if, let's say, Sergeant Harrison's out on patrol and he sees a CHP officer pulling someone over and contacting them to the driver's side or the passenger side door, which they usually do, and then all of a sudden you see a citizen go tackle that CHP officer, and then you talk to the citizen afterwards, be like, hey, there was no probable cause to pull this person over. I know this person, they have valid registration, they have valid license. I had an obligation to get in the middle of that. They're probably not gonna attack the CHP officer because they're gonna have to.
Understood. What I more meant is you are, as a sheriff's officer, see a CHP officer and you see them breaking the law and you know that CHP officer is breaking the law. Will you intervene to stop them? Any other, so it's obvious that they're committing a crime.
But if they're robbing a bank in a CHP officer's uniform,
The officer is obviously not following the law.
right, so they're robbing a bank, a CHP officer is robbing a bank, they would probably intervene and arrest that person for bank robbery.
right.
And if they're abducting people, you will also do that. You will arrest them.
It depends. If the CHP officer is arresting someone on the side of the road, and somebody attacks the CHP officer, it's gonna be hard at that moment to know if that's an illegal detention by the CHP officer that justifies some sort of vigilante justice, right? I mean, these hypotheticals are so hypothetical that it's very hard for a law enforcement.
You're saying they're happening in real life.
And I'm not saying they aren't, but I'm saying your hypothetical here in Nevada County is a very difficult one to address.
Okay, we should be ready though.
Understood?
another question. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Anita Osovich. Thank you for coming and talking to us. Are you familiar at all with the U.S. House Bill H.R. 4843, the Clear ID Act? It's proposed right now.
I'm not familiar with it, no.
Maxine Dexter and Representative Jasmine Crockett for the House.
Probably because it's a federal law, not a state law, yeah.
It affects all of us.
Uh-huh.
It's a no mask, no face cover required by federal immigration enforcement officers to visibly and verbally identify themselves while on duty. Are we familiar with any of that? It's up for a vote, but the House is out. Preventing the abuse of power.
So the question is, are you aware of this new piece of legislation in the federal government regarding wearing masks and identifying officers?
And I can say personally, like a lot of things involving ICE and that sort of thing, I've read it in the papers.
Okay. What's your feeling about that? Do you think we should have ICE officers in our community wearing masks?
So that's a fair question of, has there ever been law enforcement agencies that wear masks that you know of prior to ICE at all? Have you seen federal agents wearing masks at all in any detentions here in Nevada County?
I haven't, no.
Uh-huh. And have you ever seen that they don't have, I mean, your officers have ID and they have a badge, et cetera. Have you seen, I mean, you're in uniform today, but you don't have a badge or your name available, so there it is. And so have you ever seen other federal agents or state agents or anything else not being able to provide adequate documentation or obviously almost obfuscating it?
I haven't seen it, and like I said, we, as the Nevada County Sheriff's Office, we have limited to no direct contact with federal agencies.
Okay.
We enforce.
So as the public and as sheriffs and district attorneys, how do you know these are really ICE agents that are enforcing?
How would you know that if people show up with masks on out of a van, how would you know?
I want to say my friend over here said kidnapping.
Right.
I mean,
If we
if
saw
I saw
them,
that going on,
if-
I'd go as a person in help,
Then-
and I'd be arrested.
Right.
if we saw that going on, we'd make contact and ensure that they were law enforcement agencies, or law enforcement agents, and they weren't, just out
I don't
getting.
have a nice badge like you, but you're proud of who you are.
Yes.
And I'm proud of who you are.
Thank you.
But I'm not proud of those people.
I understand.
They're disruptive.
They are. Okay, let's go way to the back. Yes, sir.
I mean this, I hope you'll take this with no disrespect whatsoever, and only really the reflection of my ignorance of the jobs that you do. But do you, in law enforcement and in interpretation of law, I guess is what I want to call your job, Mr. District Attorney, do you, or application of law, do you undergo anti-bias training?
Anti-bias training, does that ring into your vocabulary in your job?
It rings into my vocabulary, and yes, we do. Yeah, we do. And I think to take that a step further, we have what's referred to. I think it's a little bit of a misdirect here in Nevada County, but we go through race-blind charging in our case management system. That's all electronic, paperless, that sort of thing. And so what it does is when we review a case from when everyone's reviewing a case to decide whether or not we're going to prosecute a case, whether or not the referral that we got over from law enforcement meets the ethical and legal obligations of beyond a reasonable doubt, and we're going to file charges against an individual, the case that we review has pertinent information like that redacted. So certainly race, but also names, type law enforcement agency, officers' names, areas of the county oftentimes, so addresses, all this stuff is redacted in an attempt to make sure that no direct or implicit bias is affecting our decisions to make a clear-eyed judgment of the case before us. So, but above and beyond that, we do attend implicit bias trainings. I don't think it's a great question, certainly to try to address that, and then just more fundamentally, within our case management system, we also have tools that hopefully do as much as we can to offset that.
Sergeant?
Per our policy, there are mandates, and per peace officer standing and training, there are mandates for regular bias training. I believe it's annually.
Okay, great question. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about Prop 36.
Great.
When a person has been charged with a felony for a drug offense and has chosen to go through the rehabilitation program, and that program is completed, if they are charged again after they've completed it, do they get another chance, or is that incarceration?
So the question is, somebody's gone through the Prop 36 mandated to try to stop recidivism, and recidivism occurs, what's the consequence?
Another chance, right? So they fail out of that and they face real incarceration. That is what it is on that particular sanction. They come out and they commit another crime or charged with another one. It's a mandated treatment felony, meaning were mandated, the courts are mandated to give them the treatment option again. And certainly that makes sense, right? People don't on their first try just beat substance abuse, right? So it's not, that's not any sort of deviation from common sense in my mind.
Okay, yes, sir.
Does the negative reaction to ISIS behavior and the alarm that they raise have a negative impact on the public's perception of the sheriff's department?
Here in Nevada County, and especially with the Nevada County Sheriff's Office, we enjoy the support of the community. We try to do everything we can to foster that support and the relationship with the community. I personally haven't seen anything negative from the community towards the Sheriff's Office. We take that responsibility, you know, it weighs heavy on us, so we try to do everything we can to build relationships with the public.
Great, thank you. Yes, sir.
The Kiwanis did back-to-school shopping for students. The police and fire were there to show a presence for the kids. Half the kids didn't show up for fear ICE would arrest them. They live in our community, our students.
I'm not sure how you answer that, but I think we do have a problem relative to much of our Hispanic community here having a visible presence, feeling that their visible presence jeopardizes them. And so, do either of you have a feeling as to, you know, what you can do to support the Hispanic community at this time as they're facing some real consequences?
I can just reiterate that, you know, the Nevada County Sheriff's Office is not going to enforce immigration. They're you know, that's not the mission of the Sheriff's Office, and it's prohibited by state law. So that's not something that we as a law enforcement agency would participate in. But we're happy to go out with the kids and buy them and assist with buying the back to school stuff. It shows great community support.
Yes, my dear.
So 10th time I put my hand up. Do most of the states have laws similar to California about not housing and not, you know, not giving information?
So is California unique as we probably usually are?
I think there are other states. I believe there are other states that are following suit. I don't know how many there are. I know that we were, you know, kind of the tip of the spear as far as passing laws like this.
Is this what they would call the sanctuary law, which you refer to? Is that a similar essence of what
something like that? There was 3 separate bills that all kind of got put together as the Truth, Trust, and Values Act.
Okay, great. Yes, sir.
Has law enforcement leadership had discussions on boundaries related to ICE and hypotheticals?
Okay, so have you amongst your staff and Sheriff Moon's staff had these conversations and how you're going to interact with ICE and this community? Has this been a topic?
Well, we have a policy in place for the Sheriff's Office. It pretty much outlines the law as it was passed. That tells us what we can and can't do, and it's expected that we adhere to both our policy and to the state law.
So have you had any interaction amongst your staff, amongst management staff or amongst your officers as to some of the hypotheticals that were brought up here today?
I personally haven't been in a conversation regarding the hypotheticals. Directives have been sent out regarding what is what is a legitimate federal warrant and what is a detainer that we do not honor. And just regular training and a review of the policy, which outlines what is illegal and not legal.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Hi, my question is hypothetically. As you mentioned before, sometimes neighboring jurisdictions will call and give you a heads up about federal agencies. A neighboring jurisdiction.
Neighboring jurisdictions will come in and notify us that they are present doing something.
Excellent. Okay. So you get notification somewhere that ICE is close by, maybe in a neighboring county, maybe in this county, then what do you do at the sheriff's department? Will you notify electeds? Will you notify public? And what does your team do at that point?
So the question is, Placer County tells you that OG ICE is in Auburn today, and you now know this. What do you, will you notify the other law enforcement agencies? Will you notify elected officials? How will you at all send this information outward?
Well, for just officer safety purposes, whether or not it's ICE, whether or not it's the federal marshals, whether or not it's another jurisdiction, it won't be made publicly available while something is going on, just for officer safety purposes, I imagine, because this comes over our dispatch system. So the sheriff and the leadership would be aware. They would probably notify, like the board of supervisors, but it wouldn't be publicly made available just for officer safety purposes. Whether or not it's any jurisdiction, it could be, Placer County probation doing surveillance on somebody. That's not information that we would release.
Okay. Yes, way back there with the mask on. Yes, my dear.
ICE comes in and, let's say, illegally attempts to arrest a student from a school. Will the sheriff's office intervene to enforce California law to not allow ICE enforcement in schools?
So ICE comes into Nevada Union to arrest someone.
The Nevada County Sheriff's Office, we do not oversee ICE. We cannot tell them where they can and cannot go within the United States.
Okay. Yes.
So, question for both of our speakers, and thank you for having this forum. These are very unique times, horribly scary times, and a lot of illegal activity being generated from our federal government. A lot of us are very distressed, to say the least, about the rounding up people illegally, targeting people of color. And I understand that you say we can't do anything, that the sheriff's department can. Both of those responses are just not sufficient. You have the community here terribly upset, and so many of them scared to even go out and attend events. What can we do? There has to be something that can be done, so at least our own community can be a sanctuary and not allow this thugs coming from the federal government rounding up people.
So the question in essence is, can there everyone understands your roles. The question is there something this community can do to lower the temperature so that everyone feels like we are a community? And that's a real important thing that I think everybody shares, is we're a different community than other communities, and we care a lot, as
No,
you know.
I understand, but as I said, we can't tell any federal agencies where they can and can't go. What I would suggest is use the power of the vote and try to change federal law.
Okay. Jesse, any thoughts from you? As a community member?
Yeah, I mean, the laws are on, we follow the laws that are on the book, and the laws are put in place by legislation. So legislation is put in place by the voters. And so I don't know what else we would be able to do to intervene something that's against the law. That needs to be changed in a civil way through the legislative process.
So maybe we as a community need to do something collectively, besides just by the fact that you know what your boundaries are, but the community can do something else relative to helping everyone else's boundaries.
Sure.
Okay. Yes, sir.
If a member of the sheriff's office were to comply or help with ICE in a way that you said that they cannot, how would you treat them, and what consequences would be brought?
So one of your officers helps the ICE agents. Is there a consequence relative to your officers?
Yeah, it would be a violation of the law, and it would be, it would be adjudicated as a violation of law.
Okay.
I mean, typically when there's an alleged crime committed by someone within a particular agency, there's two parts to that, right? There's an internal investigation going on within the sheriff's department, and then they also reach out to outside law enforcement agencies, district attorney investigators, in order to conduct from outside a criminal investigation into the alleged conduct of any individual, whether it's a DUI, whether it's illegally collaborating with ICE.
If the findings support that it was done illegal, there would be criminal prosecution.
Yeah, and that's, so you think about like officer-involved shootings and that sort of thing that are investigated by outside agencies to see if there was criminal conduct. There's internal investigations going on to see if it complied with their own policies. And so that would be how that goes.
Will you aggressively enforce and prosecute that?
We aggressively enforce and prosecute all crimes if it's, I mean, within the confines of ethical and justice and all that stuff. So absolutely, absolutely.
So with that, we've reached an hour together.
Can I say one thing?
Please.
What I would say is all these things, most of the questions are for the Sheriff's Department, so this offer probably won't mean a lot, but you know, you can reach out to our offices and continue this conversation with me personally. I know Sheriff Moon's available, people from the Sheriff's Department. I mean, you can reach out directly in Nevada County to us personally, and we will sit down, have a cup of coffee, take a phone call, whatever it is. If you guys have more questions that you want answered, to the best of our ability, we will try to answer them. So we don't by any means want to cut you off.
No. I just want to be able for them to be able to say thank you, because it's such a great thing to have such great law enforcement agencies. So we thank you for attending. We try to keep things right on our time, so we valued your time. I'll tell you that next month, Friday, September 26th, Lorraine Jewett will be the moderator, and we will have members from the Air Attack Base here up at Nevada County Airport here to talk to pilots and all, to talk to you about how they do run their operations. So anyway, thank you for coming very much. Really appreciate it. And I think the two officers of the court and of yours will be here for a few minutes to chat with you if you'd like to. Thank you very much.